In today's education news, and to no one's real surprise, Ofsted not fit for purpose finds alternative big listen. So the alternative big listen survey was created to rival the formal Ofsted consultation, the big listen on further reforms. But I know so many teachers felt the official Ofsted big listen survey didn't ask the right questions, presented more as a little PR stunt. The fact that nothing's been said about the big listen so far makes you lean towards that. In this alternative big listen, 9 out of 10 respondents said that Ofsted is not fit for purpose, which, look, I'm not against the idea of having an inspectorate. I think with the job we do as teachers, we need a level of accountability. But I've said for ages, you'll never convince me that Ofsted in its current form is a force for good in education. I think they are, whether directly or indirectly, the main driver of the retention crisis in education. There's not a single teacher on this planet, since the implementation of their new inspection framework with the deep dives and all that nonsense, there's not a single teacher that can say that their workloads got easier. All our workload's gone through the roof because of this inspection framework, and Ofsted have the audacity to come into a school and ask about workload and well-being. I mean, the fact that I've had, I don't know how many messages this week from schools who are being inspected, just doing an inspection in the last week of summer when we're all crawling, no matter how positive you want to say it will be, is just so tone deaf. It just shows how out of touch you are with the realities of what's going on in classrooms. Now, for transparency, because I know some people always accuse me of being negative about Ofsted, we had Ofsted in a couple of months ago. I talked about it being a positive experience. I would say since then, I've had more messages from teachers saying their experience was positive. But the fact I have to even say that is ridiculous. The fact that it's taken the tragic death of a colleague for some inspectors to have some humanity and make it a positive experience just tells you everything. That should have always been the case for years, right across the board, consistently. But it'll be interesting to see now what happens with the new government. Labour have already said they're getting rid of those single phrase judgments, which Ofsted were widely criticised as their consultation, the big listen, didn't have a question on that because they would want to keep it. Right? They want to keep it because it gives them all the power, gives them all the credence. But everyone involved in education knows those single word judgments are toxic, are a ridiculous way of judging schools and need to go. Now, when I have these rants about Ofsted, it's never against an individual. Yes, I know there's some really bad inspectors, some rogue ones who should be nowhere near a school, but the vast majority are doing their job to the best of their ability, thinking they're helping and trying to do it in a positive way. It's the system that needs to change because ultimately the system at the minute is not supportive for schools. Ofsted come in, they don't raise standards, Ofsted, they come in, they check standards, make a snap judgment and then do one. And that can be incredibly problematic. What I would love to see with these reforms, though, is actually Ofsted being held accountable for the retention crisis in education. It should not be the case that a school can get given a good or outstanding grade if they've got a ridiculously high turnover of staff. That shouldn't happen. And the fact that you've got schools who are burning teachers out within 2-3 years, they should not be given a decent grade from Ofsted, and Ofsted should be asking some serious questions to address that, because if you've got happy teachers, you're then going to have happy children. I want to make it clear, I don't think everything's always Ofsted's fault. I think a lot of poor leadership use Ofsted as an excuse to put ridiculous workload on teachers. But Ofsted need to be addressing that problem, need to be sorting and calling that out. Obviously, their inspection framework has made it ridiculous, our workload, as I've said, but they should now be actively going into schools, asking questions to look at the turnover of staff. Why are so many teachers leaving this school? What's going on there? So, do you agree with this headline from the alternative big listen? What would you like to see change with Ofsted? I'd love to hear your thoughts.